Scott hit me and said, does the culture you saw on your visit at Florida translate to Billy Napier being the coach at Florida in 5 years? It should. It should. There's no guarantee in this. What Scott is talking about is we were down there 2 weeks ago, and we got as in-depth. We got as good a look at Florida's program as any program we visited. Billy Napier made sure to show us everything, good and bad. Now, he showed us everything. I mean, guys, we had access to everything. We sat in with coaching staff. We sat in with player personnel staff, full recruiting staff. We were taken into Florida's war room. I'm talking about access to their big board for recruiting, everything. And that is a supreme amount of trust that you have to have in someone, and I appreciate that, and I don't take that lightly, but we saw it all. And the reason I'm mentioning that is we see some of that at the other places we go, and we're around some places where they win a lot. And I came back and I told you, Florida reeks of a program that's had way more on-field success than they actually have thus far under Billy Napier. If you were to walk with me through the halls of Alabama or Ohio State or Georgia, and then you went to Florida, Florida doesn't feel that much different. It doesn't look that much different because they've massively upgraded. I mean, massively over the past few years. But it also doesn't feel different. Just from an operational standpoint, it feels the same as it does at those other places. But then you look at the records, and they're struggling to even make a bowl game so far through his first 2 years, and you wonder, wow, I expected one thing when I came in here. I get a different thing. That's how I felt. I felt like I'd walk in there, and it feels like collectively everyone's trying to keep their head above water. It doesn't feel that way at all. There is such a detachment within the walls of that place versus outside when it comes to what the perspective is of the future of Florida. Everyone outside thinks toughest schedule in the country, they'll be sub 500 again this year, and that staff will be out the door. Internally, they fully expect to contend, and the schedule is what it is this year. They expect to be a much higher level operation this year, and then the year after and just any point moving forward, they think they're going to be in the thick of it every year. And Napier put it to me like this. He said, if you properly understand what we inherited, he said, I'm not complaining, we hadn't been good enough, et cetera, but we feel like we inherited a construction site. We've been working on a construction site for 2 years. He's speaking figuratively, like we're having to overhaul this and we're having to overhaul that, and we're trying to also win games on the fly. He said, this doesn't feel like a construction site anymore. So from this point forward, this is our program. Whatever you see us put on the field, it's fully ours. And we've always owned it, but we really own this point moving forward. So what I say is, either my eyes and instincts were totally deceiving me, or Florida could be better than you think they'll be this fall. Now, I have no idea what that means, because they could be an 8-4 team this year and be one of the 15 best teams in the country. That's how tough their schedule is. Colin or Bradley, whoever's punching in there, do me a favor and throw their record up one more time for me, because I want to emphasize one thing in particular. They've got a tough schedule throughout. They open at home with Miami. In fact, they play Miami and Central Florida and Florida State on the same year. But the way they end the season, listen to this. They play Georgia in Jacksonville. Then they go to Texas the next week. Then they play LSU at home. Then Ole Miss at home. And then close the season at Florida State. Guys, there's no bye week baked in there. That is top 5, top 10, possible top 5. Actually, you're playing 5 consecutive teams that could be like top 5 caliber. You're absolutely playing 5 teams that will be top 10 caliber this year, all in a row to end the season. Oh, and by the way, earlier in the year, you went to Neyland Stadium. You had Miami and A&M at home, and you've got a trip to Starkville right before you got UCF at home, and Kentucky's in there as well. There is nothing. Samford is it. They've got an FCS cream puff in week 2. That's it. Every other game's legit. Every other game's losable. So my point there is, I could be right about this. Napier could be right about what he says, and they go 8-4 this year. There's a world where Florida goes 8-4, and they're the 12th best team in the country. That's legitimately possible with that schedule. Of course, the you are what your record says you are crowd would come in and just shout nonsense words at you, but that could very well happen. I have no idea what to expect from them this fall. But getting Graham Mertz back is a huge win for them, a massive win. So I've said this a few times, I'll say it once more. Don't be discounting teams that are good at quarterback. They're good, solid, and foundationally set at quarterback.